Hi, it's Ken Daneyko, and you're listening to Missin Curfew.
Welcome back to a fresh episode of Missin Curfew, Monday edition. Up dog.
Fella, how are we?
I like that nice little sweater you got
Yeah,
on
a little
there.
holiday tarp.
That's nice.
Yeah, festive, huh?
Are you growing the mustache too, or what?
This is the first time I've ever had a mustache. In honor of maybe our guest today, I'm sure he had a nice stash at some point.
Yeah, this guy is a legend. 3 Stanley Cups. This is what I like here. 2,500 penalty minutes.
Good. Northern Alberta boy. Northern
minutes.
Alberta boy right here.
Ken Daneyko. Dano, thank you for joining, buddy. You're a legend. I looked up to you when you played the game, and you're doing great stuff now with NHL and the Jersey Devils.
Well, Scottie Gomez told me I was more of a legend off the ice early in my day. But all kidding aside, great being with you guys. I love your Jimmy Hayes, God rest his soul, in the background. Got to spend time with him for a year here, and what a wonderful guy, and just a tragedy. But anyway, I love that. I love seeing Jimmy there.
Yeah, well said. We miss him every day. So, Dano, first of all, our girl Jackie Redmond, you do great work with the NHL Network. She asked us earlier on, is Jack Hughes the biggest star in the New York metropolitan area? And we both love Jack Hughes. And I said, Jackie, no way. You got to play for the Blue Shirts and Broadway. And EJ said, Dano's going to kill you. I said, I love Dano, but Dano, can you be the biggest star playing for the New Jersey Devils? I know you're a Devils legend, or do you think the mystique or whatever is you got to be a Ranger?
Well, first off, OB, you're never going to get me to say you got to be a Ranger. I mean, come on. But and like I said, maybe off there, just fill the damn net and create offense. He's a special player. He's a lot of fun. I get your point. I hear you certainly, but you know what? I just want these guys to have some success. I was fortunate to have some here. We put hockey on the map in New Jersey way back with the great teams I was fortunate to be part of. And these guys are trying to build towards something. We got a great young core, but Jack Hughes I just love watching him play. He's fun, and certainly a guy that, it started slow, and he was a baby when he came in the league, but you just could see his confidence. He was like, hold on, fellas. I believe in myself. It will click here. And I was uncertain how good he could be. And at 21 years old, you start to see the skill and the vision and the hockey IQ, all those things we say. But no, he could be a star here in New Jersey, in the metropolitan area. I'm sure he'll go out to dinner in New York. And when he becomes the next level, I still say star. I don't put superstar lightly on a player. He's evolving toward that. Let's hope he gets there. He's a star right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great stories coming out of New Jersey this year, and I think the surprising start's one of them. The way the coaching saga has gone has really uplifted. Do you see this team being a team that can carry this on through 82 games? You mentioned earlier there's a little hiccup right now, but do you see this team having the leadership and the qualities of a championship team that can get to the next level? Do you see that with this group?
Well, first off, guys, I mean, we could never have expected this start. I thought they'd be better. I've preached to everybody in the offseason. They're getting there. If they get any kind of goaltending, they're going to be okay. They had a pretty steady defenseman, certainly, and he's played well in John Marino. Siegenthaler taking another step. But yes, it's not going to be perfect. And it was almost perfect up to this last 0-2-1 in their last 3 games. And they were close games, and they happened to lose. It's going to happen in a year. Do I think they're more well-equipped to get through it and be a good, solid team? Scottie, I can't say they're a championship team yet. We just want to see them be a playoff team and worry about that when they get there. Now, let's not forget, for me, which is important, and I hope he comes back and is healthy, Andre Palat's going to be like a trade line addition when he comes back. And we brought him in for that leadership and to teach these young guys what it takes in big moments and clutch situations. Has there been anybody more clutch than Palat the last handful of years with the Tampa Bay Lightning? So I think Fitzy, Tom Fitzgerald, general manager, has done a great job of adding pieces. Unfortunately, he was playing through an injury, and they said, let's get you fixed right now. So when it matters, you can come back here and really lead the way. And I think that's going to be an important piece. But they've added some key guys. I mean, Brendan Smith, I know they're role players. Eric Holland, these guys have been in the league a while. They've played in the playoffs. They've played in meaningful games. And I think they really have, along the way, helped these guys. And certainly our goaltending last year was a disaster. So I think we would have had 20, 25 more points if we had any kind of goaltending, and that lot because of injuries, but we used 7 guys. This year, they've been solid. They've done what they've had to do. And Akira Schmid, it's a short body of work, man, but the big fellow looks pretty good, only 22 years old in net so far as well, along with Vanacek.
Yeah, Dano, at the start of the year, you know, they had lost 3 straight, and then you came on Cooley's show, and they got it rolling right after that. But I talked to you about their lack of size up front, and you said, listen, they got speed and skill, which they've proven that. And then you said, I said they're undersized, Daniel. You said not on the back end, they're not. And you were right. I mean, their back end, starting with Dougie Hamilton, size, Marino, length. Like, is that maybe the blueprint moving forward, Daniel? Is we can get our speed up front, but let's still get some big boys with some length that can move on the back end. Because when I watch Jersey, that decor is solid and big.
No, you're absolutely right, OB. And I think that's what Fitzgerald was trying to get on the back end consistent. Look, they're not big bruisers per se.
Yeah. Smith
adds that little sandpaper that you need when he's in there. And Kevin Ball, let's not forget, who played last game and played very well, is going to get games. He's 6'6" and mobile. Another guy. He's hard to get around. He takes up space. Graves, you mentioned. Siegenthaler, a real good defensive guy. Dougie Hamilton has played a good two-way game. Yes, he's by far our best offensive player, and you have to have that flair from the back end, certainly. But I agree. I think that's the way to go in today's game. In a perfect world, did we love our time in our game? Of course I did. That was a whole different era. I've gone with the times. You got to be mobile. You've got to be able to take up space, but that long reach means something. Small defenseman, unless you're dynamic, maybe like a Quinn Hughes or a player like that. If you're not a dynamic skater as a guy that's 5'10" or under, it's going to be tough to play in this league. They call everything. You cannot defend. I don't envy these guys. But if you're big, tall, long, take up space, I think you have a better chance. And we have big guys that are mobile, and they've played extremely well for the most part.
Dano, I want to ask you about, and everything you just said is bang on, and nobody played the game harder than you, fella. And in front of that blue paint, Dano, we have these goaltender interference every fucking night, right? I'm watching and I'm like, I don't know, but I'm watching the defenseman stand beside him, and I'm like, well, if that guy boxed him out and allowed him to get position and maybe give him a little push, I guess my question is, can we get some more battles in front of the blue paint? Not back to when you played or when I played in prongs with the 20 cross checks, but there's got to be a happy medium, Dano, where I can do my job and we don't have to worry about these goaltender interference every night.
Oh, B.
I know it's a tough question, but I watch it, Dano.
Did you see the Kulikov one? Tavares on Kulikov 2 nights ago. He just stood right in front.
Yeah,
like, how do you not even take his stick?
That's what I mean. Like, I think these
Get
guys,
your ass out there.
I think these Ds are so afraid of getting the cross-checking penalty or whatever.
Right.
In front, like,
I think it's an art now. I mean, these guys have to toe the line with a little shove, throw them off balance when that shot's coming. These guys are so good at tipping, and it's tough to defend now. No question for defensemen, and it is about skating and positioning. And I think defensemen need to, the second that shot's coming around, that need to box out lift sticks. I get frustrated too. Don't get me wrong, guys.
Yeah.
When you see a little shove, the guy goes down, the arm goes up. I'm like, they've got to have better judgment when it's not a cross check, or I know they're trying to protect players at all costs, and if it's not the full cross check and it's a little shove, well, maybe they can have a little leniency, but you got to adapt and adjust. That's just the way it is, it seems. Does it frustrate us at times? For sure. It's not easy. Can you imagine like guys like Marilyn Mew and even Gretz playing nowadays? I mean, everybody talks about the skill sets on the bottom 6 for me on the forward lines is so much higher, so much better, because it was a different game. It was more intimidating in our day, and you had different role players, and I miss those guys. Those were character guys, but I've gone with the times where these kids are so gifted. But the Lemieux, Gretzky's today, Sakic, you name it, Bossy's, the late, great Mike Bossy, who took punishment night in, night out. I mean, what they were able to accomplish, they wouldn't have to get touched. Mary Lemieux may have 200 goals in today's game, right? And God bless him. So I throw that out from the standpoint. I love the high-end skill and the McDavids and Dreisaitl's, and you can go on down the list of how great these players are. Let's not forget some of the greats of our day, man. Those guys would be tearing it up right now because they're as good as anybody But Ovechkin, he could play in any era.
Yeah.
235 pounds, 800 goals. He may have 1,000 by now if he started So I give him credit because he's a bull. He's a beast like the old days, right?
Hey, how about Mess back in the day? If Mess could go to the front of the net right now, Mess would just go there every night and just stand there and tip pucks, right?
Cross-check guys, slash in the back of the leg.
And Mess is my buddy, and I grew up with him. He was a big mentor of mine since 12 years old. The buddy and friendship kind of was thrown out the window when he came to New York because, man, it was such an intense rivalry. And, he liked to chuck the odd elbow every once in a while. But him and I had some beefs in front. And here's a guy I've known since 12 years old. I'm going, this is the guy I looked up to, I respected, but no friends out there, as they say, when we had some epic playoff battles along the way. When he was with the Oilers, guys, he would send me notes, him and Kevin Lowe, to the dressing room through the stick boy, something real funny, like this big jack body and like a stick man or whatever, and make me laugh, you know what I mean, and smile and warm up. Because, we were a bad team in the early 80s, and they were the Edmonton Oilers, the dynasty, so he was wishing me the best, but those smiles were all gone when he got traded to the New York Rangers. But I'm grateful to him because he really taught me what it took to be a pro and a professional in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, it's nice having Mess back in the game too, right? It's nice having him on TV, getting his, because if you leave the game for a while, a lot of these kids kind of forget how the personality is. And Messier carries that persona with him, Dano. Was it?
I'm shocked that Mark Messier, and you never know why or what, is not an executive or a head coach behind the bench. I don't care about experience.
Yeah.
There's no better leader. He's got 50 years of experience. I mean, I heard stories, man, and I saw it. I traveled to Greece with him, partying in the 80s. Nobody knew hockey. He'd walk in the bar, and it parted like the Red Sea. Like he just had that aura, that it factor, right? As got people, this guy's somebody. You got to listen to him. And it just shocks me. I mean, I would have thought he would have been as good as it gets in that category, but we're seeing him on TV.
I think that goes back to Obi's point earlier, right? Like he was captain of the Rangers, bringing that
the old China Club, China Club back in the day, Dano, eh?
Oh, well, oh man, Obi, that was my joint, baby. Every Monday night. Did you guys? Oh, I got to tell the story really quick.
Yeah, take your time.
Speaking of the Rangers, and he put it in his book, and I'm sure you might have heard it. We've said it a lot, but Ty Domi, tough as it gets, leads the most majors all time in the National Hockey League ever, and did it for a long time. So he'd always come after me at the Garden a couple of times, and I'd already been 10, 11 years in the league. I was trying to leave it up to some younger, bigger guys, and only do it a handful of times because I did it a lot my first 5 years as far as the fisticuffs.
Yeah.
And he always challenged me, and I'd accept it. And I go, oh, Ty, not again, man. I don't want to hit that head. I mean, it is hard as rock. Not to mention he's like a pit bull. He's strong as heck. And I went him a couple times, had some pretty good bouts. And then, it had to be a month after one of them. I'm going to the China Club. And sure enough, handful of the Rangers walk in, and it's Domi, and it's Messier, and it's a young Domi, 22 years old. And so Mark stirs the pot. He does shake my hand because we're away from the game, and we say hello. I'm a little skeptical to go near any of his teammates because that was just the way it was back then. He goes, listen, I know you scrapped Ty a few times here. He says, all kidding, let's have some fun. He's a real good arm wrestler. You're the strongest guy I've seen when you were young together in Edmonton. Says, I wanted you two to have an arm wrestle, see who wins. I'm very curious. You know what I mean? And, we've had a few. I certainly have. I learned Ty didn't after that, and that's the end of the story. Is he beat me. But anyway, so we set up a table, have an arm wrestle. And Ty and me put $100 on it. So just to make it interesting, he beats me with the right, and I'm a lefty, and went forever. He beats me with the left, and I'm angry, man. I'm fired up. I end up headbutting Ty Domi in the China Club. It gets serious now. Mark starts almost come to blows at the China Club. The bouncers jump in. Mark says, "You two idiots! This was all fun and games." And it was just so intense. Ty put it in his book. We still laugh about it. He keeps reminding me that he beat me. And on both arms. And yeah, he was strong and had those short arms. But so I sent 10 days later, we played him in the Meadowlands. I sent the $100 I stormed out of the place. I was pissed, man, so pissed being the competitor I am. And I sent the $100 in an envelope with a stick boy down to the Rangers room. And he put that in there too. I think his book said he honored his bet, but just those funny stories we had at the time. And Mark thought we were crazy. He's going, Kenny, you're nut. What are you doing? This kid's, tie's tie. He's tough as nails. You lost. I just was pissed, man. I couldn't accept it.
Yeah, well, that's why you're sitting there with 3 cups, because you're competitive. But when you talk about fighting, Daniel, same with me, man. When I came in the league, I'm like, all right, I'll chuck him here. For my first 2 or 3 years, I'm like, bring it on, let's chuck him. And then as I went on, I'm like, fuck, I would rather someone else do this. So I guess that's what you want to do as a defense, right? You prove you can do it. And now I'm like, all right, you get better as a player. For you win championships. It's like somebody else get in there and fucking fight Ty tonight. I'm in my 10th year here, right? Like,
yeah, well, when Oliwak came and Jimmy Mack and all those, total beast, Jimmy Mack and Peluso, whoever it was, I'm like, all right, now at least I get to fight maybe the 3rd or 4th toughest guy. When it comes down to brass tacks. Jimmy Mack, I loved. He was an animal, but and the nicest guy in the world. So yeah, that's what I thought early on. Obi, truthfully, and it was our era. Like I said, I don't even compare. Our era was our era. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Yeah, we're nervous before games. We look at the lineup, who you got to scrap, and whatever it may be. And I know the old time hockey fans enjoyed it at times too. I understand why they've transitioned and why the game's evolved. You got to protect players. I get it. But I remember early on, that I was going to get in the league that way. Even though I went in the first round and I had some skill and I had some points in junior, you got to find a role. And I'm not Scott Niedermayer, and I couldn't skate like him, so I couldn't transition my junior offense and kind of, I guess, two-way game to the National Hockey League. But I knew I was half tough and that I'm going to have to get at it to try to open their eyes, especially the first 3-4 years. Now, to stay around and be part of it, I had to hone my skills and learn along the way and be a good, solid stay-at-home defenseman to help the team win. And it worked out okay. I ended up playing a long time in the league, but I knew that's how I was getting into. I mean, I go into Philadelphia and we'd drive the bus down to Philadelphia in the mid-'80s. You could hear a pin drop down the turnpike, a pin drop. There's the Broad Street Boys, and there was Dave Brown and still Glenn Cochran and Daryl Stanley, and Berube was coming up and Talkett. And I'd go to Joe Sorrell. I'd sit next to him because he didn't follow any of it. I was a student of the scrapping and all that. And these guys, I go, Joe, and our guys were horrified. We're going down to Philly. Let's just get out of this game alive. Never, if we win, we win. That's a bonus. But so, because they were just much more further as far as a team and better team. And I go to Joe Sorrella, who was another guy that was a gamer. And I go, Joe, I said, let's get it over with early. I'd show him a list. I'd show him about 8 guys. I said, pick your poison because they're all different. I said, I know Brown early on's coming after me. And sure enough, he did. And I ended up going Dave Brown a few times. I'm alive to talk about it. And Joey C, he had no clue. Like, he was oblivious. I'm going, Joey, yeah, we're going to have to do it. And we might as well get it out of the way early. But we survived. And another story with Joe was Probert and Kosher, Detroit Red Wings, Brad Park coaching. We're beating them 7-2. And one of our rare games, we're leading by a lot. They put Probert and Kosher with about 6 minutes to go on the same line. They weren't playing together at the time. And I go, Joe, they're coming at us. It's me and Sorella on the point. I said, I'm Gary. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, those 2 guys that just came out are coming right for us because we had no forwards. So they're all small, weren't fighters. I said, Gary, sure enough. I said, if you get Kosher, he's got a bomb. Duck. Okay. Joey Sorella said I saved his life because he got Kosher. Probert came to me. Both ended up going. And Joey Sorella had the reach. He actually landed a few. And he said, and then we saw Kosher kind of skim the top of his helmet. He would be still out cold. He would have been out till next week. And Joey just ducked in time. I think he chipped his helmet with the punch or whatever it was. So just great, hilarious stories. And Joey after the game was, Kenny, thank you. I said, maybe you should study a little more of this once in a while, because I knew exactly what and who and where.
But it's funny you say that. And Dano, you talk about having to find your how to stick around. Like for me, I was an 8th rounder, right? So when I went to the American League, I was like, fuck, I got a chance here. If I stay with these players and continue to practice with these guys, I'm going to get better. So I knew I had to fight. So I just fought. But I studied the film, especially the lockout year where the big boys were in. I was every night at home watching it on Hockey Fights or whatever. Yeah. I knew me and Sheldon Brook.
Or VHS.
VHS.
They didn't have YouTube.
No, but we had ways
to
to see the fights.
Yeah.
We had ways to see the fights.
Yeah,
there was ways to see them. Like, so me and Sheldon Brookbank, former Devil, me and Billy Brookbank on nights, I'd be like, Billy, you fight this guy last year? He's like, yeah, I fought him. He throws lefts, heads up this. He throws both. Like, so you got to do the studying, Dano.
It seems so far removed from that. Like, it seems a whole other lifetime of the craziness that went on. And we loved it, right? At the time, scared sometimes, nervous sometimes. But I have respect for every player that's even played a handful of games in National Hockey. You guys had great careers. And I never take that for granted. I was able to play a long time, and all because Lou Lamoriello sat me down. I'd already played 5-6 years. And, I've told this one too, but it's a good one. And you guys, I've told it before many times, but he sat me down after I wanted to be a little bit of everything and bring a little offense. And I was on the second power play because Bruce Driver was out of the lineup for 4 games. And Bruce was a power play guy and really good at it. I picked up 4 assists, 4 points in 4 games. I'm all excited. I'm getting involved. This is like 88 so I can do a little bit more. And Lou takes me, and then Bruce comes back. I'm off the power play, and I'm frustrated. I wore my emotion on my sleeve, and Lou, man, he didn't mince words or pull punches. Says, Kenny, something's bothering me. Come up to my office. He knew exactly what was bothering me. He sits me down. He says, Kenny, he says, what's bothering you? I go, well, Lou, I had some success in the second power play unit. Now I'm getting no power play time, and like 4 points in 4 games, blah blah blah. And I'm butting him, and he goes, Kenny, I liken my team to an orchestra. Sit down. I liken my team to an orchestra. There's violinists, there's pianists, there's drummers. In order to make beautiful music, everybody has to play their role in order for us to be part of this. What category do you think you fall in there? True story. He still tells the stories to this day, he tells me, because he loves it too, and we chuckle about it. I'm not the brightest bulb in the tree. I get up, throw the chair, but I knew what he meant. I go, I'm a freaking drummer. Yeah, I know. But I'm butting. I'm going, but I just had 4 points, And I'm getting up, and he liked when you challenge him a little bit. I was not many guys did. He was an intimidating man, believe me. And I got up and threw his chair, actually, the chair I was sitting across from his desk. And he calmly folds his arms and goes, if you want to be a violinist, I will call 15 teams and see if they need a violinist. Said, but by the way, if you master that drum, you're going to play 15 years in this league. And, that meant penalty kill him and protect teammates and then block shots, whatever it took. And I'm ready to sweat. And then I walk out, kind of slam the door. And I thought about it, man. It was the best advice I had, because if I was going to be jack of all trades, master of none, I would have played that 5 years, and I would have had 2 more years and been out of it. And people say, well, why aren't points important? Sure they are. But then it takes away, because if I'm trying to do too much and I'm not skilled enough, takes away from what I'm doing well, and that's defensively and killing penalties. You know what I mean? So It's still a good lesson for young kids that you still can find a niche, a role for you. And I listened to him. I said, he doesn't care if I ever get a point. That's a bonus. I've got a role to do, a part in this team to help them win along the way. Best advice I got, and thank God he said that, because then I just moved the puck up ice. I didn't try to beat a man or try to do more, which maybe a lot of times would turn into a disaster because I'd hang on too long.
Yeah. I went through that same kind of thing, Dano. I got traded from Tampa to Vancouver, and in Tampa I was playing 20 minutes a night. I was second unit power play, and I thought points. I wish I would have had someone like Lou pull me aside in Vancouver, because it took me my whole first year in Vancouver till playoffs to realize, like, it doesn't matter if I get any fucking points here. Like, my job is to play hard, be good defensively. Like, and I wasted my first year in Van and got in AV's doghouse and did some stuff that I was worried about ice time and points. And I wish I would have had someone like Lou that said, hey, fuckhead, I don't give a fuck if you get any points. Like, just keep the puck out of the net and play hard. Like, so I know exactly what you're saying.
Isn't that unbelievable how sometimes guys didn't get that advice? You just had to figure it out on your own. And that was invaluable for me, because you're right. We all want more and frustrated at how many minutes we're playing. And am I picking up some points? Oh, I haven't had a point in 10 games. Well, that wasn't my role. That wasn't your role at the time. And yeah, when we did it, it was fun and players celebrated because they got excited when you chipped in with a goal because you just don't do it that often. But yeah, he got right to the point, and God, without it, I really believe my career wouldn't have been as long. Now I won't forget Larry Robinson came 10 years into my career, and I learned more about defense in the first week than I did my first 10 years. And he told me, Kenny, I love your intensity and love you going out of your way to hit guys once in a while, but dial it back, baby.
Yeah.
Positioning, you're expending way too much energy. And he taught me how to use my stick well. We talk about stick today in the game so often. Larry was teaching me that. He was way ahead of his time of pointing the stick and where to be and subtle movements. I'm going, wow, he made the game easy for me. And another reason I was able to play a little longer for sure.
Yeah. 20 years with one team, Kenny. That's pretty damn good.
You know what? Can't believe that. It's still surreal. Time flies. Means I'm just getting old. I feel lucky. I feel grateful, man, guys, that I got to play on one team. A lot better players were traded along the way, and they gave me my opportunity. I didn't want to play anywhere else. I told everybody when we were brutal in our early years, winning 17 games a year, I was that type of kid. I told everybody we're going to become something someday. Yeah. And I hope I'm still part of it when we finally can take the next step and possibly win a Stanley Cup, which was what it was all about.
I would ask, you guys had some great young players too there. All you guys talk about Lou the same way, right? Like he was open with you. He told you, like Gomer,
the Godfather, I call him.
Gomer, for example, and Marty Broder, in St. Louis, they were always like, Lou was great for us. He was just, he told it how it is. We knew our roles. Was there a method to his madness there, or did you guys all just kind of feel like you grew up together and now you have the right group of guys to take this to the next level and just compete, right coaching staff, right group of guys? Because 3 cups in a matter of, not so many years is pretty. We went
to the finals 4 times in my last 8 years, Scottie. And yeah, it was a hell of a run because I realize now 5-10 years after your career and 20 years, you go, man, it's not easy to make the playoffs, let alone go 4 grueling rounds. But method to his madness. You know what? I didn't love all his rules like a lot of us did because he was a disciplinarian. We certainly know that. But I absolutely method to his madness. If things were going well and I came in not looking too good in the morning, well, he wouldn't bring me into his office. If it wasn't going well, because he didn't want to ruffle feathers. He knew things. I mean, we'd stay at the hotel for home games. That was his tradition. Meaning you sacrifice for 2 months. There's no going home. This is hockey, hockey, hockey. Some guys liked it, some didn't, but we all adjusted and said, absolutely, we got to sacrifice here. He wants us together. And we won a few playoff rounds. Then he'd have us stand at the hotel and guys would be sneaking out because we did have a curfew, even if we didn't play the next night. And he goes, after my career, he goes, you don't think I knew you guys were sneaking out, you idiot? I go, of course there was 10 loser. He goes, I knew you were, but I didn't, cause a ruckus. So there was a method to his madness. You guys were going good. You were a team. You were together. We had a few nights off. I knew what was going on.
It's funny, Dan, on my first year, and it teased me back to my question about the old barn, is John Tortorella did that in Tampa. When we played the Devils in the first round, he said, boys, at home, you're staying in the hotel. So maybe you got that from Lou, but my first playoff experience, Daniel, and I remember those pictures behind you. I remember those teams you played on and how hard you guys played, and fucking Marty and Scott, yourself, Norm, Niedermeyer. I walk into the Prudential Center for my first playoff game with the white flags, and I was a little bit like, holy shit, here I am. This is game on. Like, talk about that old building and just, it had that fucking character in it.
It did, and it was big. I mean, and when we were winning, obviously the place was filled, and they were loud. And we had any team like the Tampa Bay Lightning going back to back and 3 Stanley Cups consecutive, and I thought that we had a swagger. All good teams have it. I mean, we felt you got to win games you don't deserve to win too, and we knew how to play with that leadership of Stevens and Niedermeyer and Randy McKays, who was so instrumental. And then later on, a combination of that youth and exuberance and skill of a Scottie Gomez and a Patrick Eliash. I can go on down the list. Yeah, and we had a great goaltender. That made it a lot easier when we did make mistakes. But we could win games at 65% of ourselves, like win a 2-1 game, a 3-2 game, because we understood we didn't have the legs that night. You're not going to have your legs every night. It's learning. I still say today's game, too. Teams got to realize when it's not your night, you still can find a way to win.
Totally.
But you got to be more positionally sound, structured, whatever it may be. And that's tough to get through to your players at times. But we had an aura, a swagger that we knew we had. We were in the other team's mind right out of the gate, right from the start of every class. It didn't mean that we always wanted it materialize the way we wanted, but we had that little edge because we had raised the bar. That's where we were at as an organization, a lot because of Lou and the players he brought in. He knew how to bring in to make everybody important, bring in role guys. And then when we got Scott Stevens, and then when we drafted Niedermeyer, those were kind of the missing pieces. And then Broder came in, and I was lucky to play with those Hall of Fame players. And then with young Gomer coming in, I loved it because now he took the pressure off of me because he was Lou's whipping boy instead of me now.
He would speak highly of you. So Gomer, my first year in St. Louis, Gomer was with us for most of the year, and he'd be on the back of the bus or the plane, his glass of vino. He'd bring 2 bottles himself. He'd be drinking it himself. And he'd be writing in his journal, right? He journaled a ton the last few years of his career. And he's like, one day I'm unleashing all these stories. I'm going to take everyone down that I know. And I'm thinking, fuck, he's got to have a few
I didn't
in
know
there.
he's that smart, Scottie.
He's got to have a few in there of me. And I'm sure of you. Is there any times back you're thinking, this young Scottie Gomez, he's got a little Kenny Daneyko in him or whatever. Did you show him the ropes when he was a young man?
All I can say, Scottie, I wish I had a little Scottie Gomez in me because I would have been a Hall of Famer.
I know.
Totally.
He could carry the puck up better. Gomer could carry the puck up better than anybody. When he threw the neutral zone, I'm like, that was NHL.
But I did. You know what? Kid aside, no question. As soon as he came in, I mean, he was gregarious. He was fun. He knew when it was time to have fun and time to get serious. And so when he came in, I kind of took him under my wing, or maybe he took me under his. He kept me young for sure, but I just loved his personality. And I'm sure he told you the story, Scottie, when I was early on in his career. He was 19 years old, and I was 35, I think, and I'm in the shower and I'm groaning. I'm grunting, and it's late. Everybody's gone, and I was just a nut. And he didn't want to come in the shower. He's looking around. He came in and says, "Everything okay, Mr. Daneyko?" And he might have told me, like he thought there was something going on, and I come out, towel around me, and I'm flexing, and I go, "No way a 35-year-old should look this good, Gomer." And he goes, "Phew." He didn't know if he was doing something wrong. And from there on in, we laughed our heads off and became tight buddies, and still to this day. But I scared him a little bit because he didn't know what the hell was going on.
Are you okay, Mr. Daneyko?
He thought I was having a convulsion or something.
Yeah. Hey, Dano, speaking about being jacked, back in the day, I played with Sean Stefanski, whose sister married Corey Stillman, and him and Scott Stevens lived on the same cottage. So one summer I was in junior, and it just doesn't surprise you, I wasn't a fitness freak, right? So Stilly's like, "Hey, come work out. Scott Stevens is coming across to work out today." So he comes across in his boat, no shirt on, and just walks in the gym and is like, "Morning, guys." And Dano, this fucking workout, I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I got a lot of work to do if I'm going to be in the NHL. So I guess just his work ethic, we all know about his open ice hits, but just maybe touch on his day-to-day. Like, he was a beast, right?
He was, and believe it or not, I mean, a lot of that was natural too. He's still jacked. We're the same age, went the same draft. And, he's as ferocious as he was on the ice and a great leader. He was quiet, reserved, and almost an introvert off the ice. He is to this day. He's a family man, and he's a hunter, and that's his passion, and that's his release. But he's a guy that, as far as work ethic and practice, and he wasn't like I wouldn't say a gym rat because he was so natural, but just he never put a bad thing in his body. He was a health nut. He was a guy that just took he was a serious man, and that's a big reason why he was a great leader. I mean, I've never seen a stronger guy. I mean, I know after his career, 10 years after, I obviously know a lot of people in Jersey, and he was doing some work at his home there. He's got a big property where he can hunt deer on his property in the suburbs of Jersey. And I had some construction guys I knew the people doing the work on it. They came up to me one day about a month after, and they said, "This guy, is he human?" I go, "We're doing work at Scott Stevens' house." And I go, What are you talking about? He goes, "Because we had these pallets that 4 of us couldn't move, and they had bands around them. And Scottie came out of the house and kind of grabbed one on one hand, one on the other. Everybody that knows him, he's got absolute meat grinders for hands. And he grabbed both of them and moved them where the guys needed the pallets to be moved, or these bricks or whatever wrapped around in a rope." They were like dumbfounded. The jaws dropped. These 4 guys couldn't move it. And he kind of just took both of them and moved it. And he was like 50 years old. So, yeah, he's a mountain of a man. He was a great player and a great leader. And we were fortunate to get him. How about that deal, right, guys? I mean, Brendan Shanahan goes to St. Louis. It was, I don't know how it transpired. Lou asked us, they offered us something else, Lou, because it was a circumventing of the contract. You know, he signed something that he wasn't supposed to do back then. So we asked for Scottie. Scottie didn't want to leave St. Louis. We ended up getting him in arbitration. How about that deal? Shanahan, 600 goals, Hall of Famer, great player, and we get Scott Stevens. So it kind of worked out, I think, all around. But we don't win probably a cup if we don't get Scott Stevens.
Is there one of the cups that stands out to you more than the other for like maybe the way it unfolded, or the challenge that was there, or maybe the doubts that you had that you kind of were like, fuck, you know, this is too hard, or just maybe the celebration after, and one's just like, you know, this was just to top it off?
Get asked this a lot, and it's a great question.
Yeah,
and like I said, I'm grateful to not only win one, but be part of 3 Stanley Cup teams. And 95, obviously, we didn't even have a great year, and it was the lockout year, so it was a shortened season. We kind of limped into the playoffs. We just lost, remember, to the New York Rangers. And that year in 94, in a 7-game epic series and double overtime, we were going to win the cup. No disrespect to Vancouver. We were going to win as well, we believe. And both of us and the Rangers won 2 in the season that year in the National Hockey League. They won the President's Trophy. We were second. So we were a great team. Next year, everybody kind of forgot about us in 95, Scottie. And we kind of had the same team, but we limped in. We were like a 5th seed or whatever, but we were waiting for the playoffs. Like, we were that team that could turn the switch on. So we're thinking people are forgetting about us. We're the team that probably would have won the cup the year before. Same group, and we couldn't wait to get going. And then we kind of steamrolled the first 3 rounds. For one series, I think we were down 2-0, then won 4-0, and we never looked back. And then we had to meet the mighty Detroit Red Wings, and they were the dominant team and high-flying, great, the Yzermans and Fedorovs and Paul Coffey was there. We can go on down the list. And I believe, you know, now with all the betting and everything, but we'd heard, and I didn't know much about it then, but we heard we were 2.5, 3-1 underdogs going into the series. So Jacques Lemaire, and that was another big reason we started to get better, because we couldn't listen to Lemaire and Robinson. Who we listened to, they didn't have enough fingers and toes to put their Stanley Cup rings on.
Yeah.
So Jacques Lemaire, 2 days before the series is opening, put both lineups down the board, and he compared certain players against certain guys, kind of comparable guys. And in his friend checks and going, "Dano, can you outplay that guy? Reich, can you outplay that guy?" And then he'd go on down the list, and we were kind of shaking our heads. He just wanted to make sure we weren't believing the papers, you know. And we had a veteran-laden group and experienced and confident. And we're all looking, going, Jesus, we might be better than the Detroit Red Wings, you know. But Jacques, it was brilliant, because he wanted to make sure the papers were saying we had no shot. You know what I mean? So, and at the end of the day, we didn't expect to sweep them. We ended up sweeping the Detroit Red Wings, but a lot because Jacques, and he just wanted to see that we were ready for this series. And our veterans were looking at each other going, yeah, we're a little deeper on the back end. We're better in goal. They might have a little more firepower up front, but we think we can shut that down. So we were very, very confident. And yes, what a party. And it was a whirlwind, and it was crazy. And I used to carry a silver garbage can over my head. You guys might have been road hockey when you were 10 years old, pretending it was the Stanley Cup. That was your second dream. First to make the National Hockey League, second to win a cup. So I didn't really absorb it as well. Scottie, we had a great time. Don't get me wrong. It was a blast. And this was a character group, a fun group. We had some crazy guys, and we had a lot of fun the couple of weeks after. The second cup, I always say, it meant as much because I really absorbed it, understood what it took as a team and the grind. And that was probably our best, deepest team. We were great in the regular season. We were probably predicted to win the cup, and we did just that. And that's hard when you're kind of the team, with the Colorado and Dallas were there, and we'd be right there. But we were an excellent team, and we were supposed to be one of those teams to vie for it. And we did it. And that team, I just understood what it took and the grind. And I really just sat back and enjoyed it more. And then the third one, my role was diminishing. And that was my last year. And I hadn't played in the finals. I played every Devils playoff game and the first 13 in 2003. I was 39 years old already. So I understood I may be in and out. And sure enough, it's still hard on you. You're a competitor, but I ended up getting scratched a few playoff games. And then I played game 6 and 7 against Ottawa. And by the way, they were the best team in the National Hockey. They're the President's Trophy winners. So on paper, they were better than us. We found a way. We beat them in 7. I play 6 and 7. I'm not going to play. And I find out I'm not starting game 1 of Stanley Cup Finals. I was devastated because I'm going, how could I play 6 and 7 against Ottawa? Now I'm not starting. And they, Trevor Oskey was in there, who I became very close with. And now for me, it was just about winning. He was a great, gifted young player, but of course you're angry. And sure enough, I don't play for 6 games, and I thought I'd get in earlier. Me and Pat Burns, the late, great Pat Burns, didn't see eye to eye always. Every coach you're not going to love. But I was realistic where I was. So now I just wanted to be that guy to be supportive. And I kept telling the young kids that were going in for me, going, if I'm walking around grumpy and pissed, it's not at you. Yeah. Get the damn job done. It's, I'm not going to be happy with the decision because that's what makes me a competitor. That's what's made me who I am. But I'm going to, you guys do your thing, love you guys and be part of it. And that's, I felt I had to do that. And that's kind of how I handle it. And then Pat, after game 6, I'm going, I haven't played in 2 weeks. It's 3-3. It's a homer series. They won 3. We won 3 in our building. Takes me aside. We land. It's only one day in between. I'm already expecting. I'm not playing. I was part of this. I just want to win for guys that never won a Stanley Cup. They got to experience it. Takes me aside, takes me out of the hotel before the team dinner, and we're staying overnight at Lowe's Glen Point. And he goes, Kenny, you're in tomorrow night. I looked at him like, are you freaking nuts? Now I think you're making the wrong decision, you knucklehead. Like I really thought this isn't right now. Now you're stupid. Because and I was like a little kid, like a rookie, going so excited, going, call my best friend, call my family. I go, you're not going to effing believe this, to my buddy Charlie. And he goes, you're in tomorrow night, aren't you? I go, how the hell would you know? He goes, I knew it. I felt it. People around you know more than you. I felt it. And I'm going, well, I certainly didn't think so. And I certainly think this is the wrong decision. Kenny played over 1,200 regular season games, 175 more in the playoffs. You'll be okay. And I knew, I wanted to play my little role. I just didn't want to blow it for us. I had played in 2 weeks. Everything turned out. The fans went nuts. And I had such a great rapport with the fans. And Pat Burns, at the end of the game, we won 3-0. And, I went into his office and said, Pat, we didn't always see eye to eye. I gave him a cigar because, he was a cigar guy. I was a cigar guy at the end. I go, you know what? I'm forever indebted to you. I know you had tough decisions, and I was pissed. And we almost had an all-out brawl after the Boston series when he was sitting me for my first game. We were both intense guys, and he was a tough bugger. And I said, he goes, Kenny, he says, I needed that intangible in game 7. I knew you were coming back. And I go, well, thanks for telling me now. But he says, the fans went nuts when they heard you weren't a healthy scratch. We wanted any little bit of emotion for that last game to help out. And I gave him a big hug. I said, thanks, Pat, because I had tears in my eyes. I said, this is it. I'm retiring. Can't go out any better way. And you just made it that much more special to go out a Stanley Cup champ, hoisting the cup around Brendan Byrne Arena.
Yeah, Daniel, that's legendary stuff. And I loved watching you play. And my first roommate, we'll end with this. We appreciate you taking the time. My first roommate was Ian Moran. And now that I've got to know you, I was always like, Ken Daneyko would have been a good roommate. So Daniel, were you the guy, drop the bags and go for a little happy hour? What was your trick on the road? Would you have a nap when you landed? Or, hey boys, let's go. I got a little spot. We have a couple beers, dinner. Or how was the road for Ken Daneyko then?
I'll be, and I'm sorry if I went on a little long. When I get these stories going,
No.
It brings back great memories.
It was perfect.
I love this because, are you kidding me, man? I had the whole season mapped out. We're in Chicago. I had the whole season mapped out in the 80s. We're in Chicago. We got 2 nights off. We're going here. We're off to LA. We're going there. We're in St.
I knew it.
So
I knew it.
I would get jacked when I'm saying, oh, we got a couple nights off. It's not a back-to-back. What a great city to party in. So Bruce Driver was my roommate, and I'll leave it at this, early in my career. And obviously, early on, we were took commercial, then charters in the later 80s. But whether it was commercial or charter, I'd just be getting in maybe 6 a.m. Bus was 6:20. Hadn't packed my bags. We're going home from a long road trip, because we had a few nights off. So I went out and had myself a good time. And I'd run upstairs panicking. Bruce would go, Dano, he's got a deep voice, monotone voice. He goes, Dano, don't worry. Your bags are packed. They're already down below. I already did it. Like Bruce, we were Oscar and Felix. And I'm like, oh, thanks, Bruce. Like he was the type of guy that made the bed in my room. We're still tight as can be today. And he's working with the Devils still. But I loved it. Bruce would, anytime I was late, he had my back. He had things packed. He had everything I needed. Dano, don't worry about that. You forgot that. I got it. So I'm forever indebted to Bruce Driver in the early days because I would have been in a lot more trouble than I was. Because I would have missed the bus, missed the flight.
Hey, Daniel, I wouldn't have packed your bag for you, but I would have missed the flight with you. I would have been like, Daniel, we're both in one.
You know what? Troy Crowder. I forgot to bring about when Troy Crowder came in, I knew I was really down the pecking order because he was taking on everybody. He was the king for about a year in the National Hockey League. So I'm his roommate, and we're in Edmonton, Alberta. And he was the most laid-back guy for as tough as he was on the ice when he was mopping guys up. Rookie year in Edmonton, our alarm goes off. It's soft music. We don't get it. John Cunniff's the coach. I wake up. The plane's already. I wake up 7:30, panicking. Bus left. Flight's at 8 o'clock. I go, Troy. Oh my God, we missed the flight. We're screwed. He's relaxed and goes, don't worry, Dano, we'll get the next one. I'm like, here's this young kid. I'm in panic mode. Get up. We pack our bags. We rush to the airport. So happy my dad, my late great dad, worked at the airport. Troy had no passport, no nothing, no ID. Whole different mentality back then. It was like 89. He was able to get Troy through. I had to use my credit card to pay for his flight. And oh my God. So crazy stories like that. Nothing better. I couldn't believe how calm this kid was. I was like losing my mind. Lou's going to kill us. And Connie, who was old school as it gets, said, we come back, practice next day. Connie goes, everybody thought they were going to read me and Troy out. He goes, Connie goes, you guys are supposed to stick together. You got to make sure everybody's up and ready to go. He was that old school guy. So I was like so happy we did. I thought we were going to get reamed out, but he was that great guy that just said, you guys are responsible for each other.
Yeah, and that's awesome. That's what makes hockey great.
Yeah, and I'm sure you found no trouble back in your hometown in the 80s anyway, so I'm sure.
It happened to be
Edmonton. I know. I've been caught in a few storms up there myself. Kenny, man, this is awesome. We really appreciate you coming on. It means a lot. 3-time Stanley Cup champ. You're doing great stuff with the network too, and we love chatting with you.
Yeah, you're a legend, fella.
Thank you, guys. I love being on with you. I love what you guys are doing as well. I love you on the network and your podcast, and a lot of respect. And I will show you. I'm going to the hospital because I'm going to be a grandpa soon to be. I've already got him a little jersey. That Frosty. You guys know Frosty.
I love Frosty.
Of course. He got this made for me so that I know it's any second, and I have a game tonight. And as you know, for anybody that needs you guys, I had a great time in my life, fun time, sober a lot of years. So I want people to know that, hey, I love it. I don't regret it. I had some great times, but sobriety is pretty cool too. If you're one of those that need the help, I'm always there as well for anybody that, contacts me on Twitter, social media. I love it if I can have an impact in that way as well. But it doesn't mean I don't love my buddies that still have a great time. I just can have it without having a pop anymore. It was over for me.
Hey, you left it all on the ice and off the ice. You retired from both, buddy. There's nothing wrong with that. So, Dano, thank you very much, buddy. We appreciate you taking the time. Up dog, thanks, Ken Daneyko. What a legend, man.
Oh, man. I could have talked to that guy forever.
I wish I would have played with that guy. I mean,
I know I would have had a sore back sitting on a bar stool with that guy because I wouldn't have probably left. I would have probably put in about a 6-hour shift with him.
Yeah, I just think how funny would have been in the room too, right? Like, you could tell he loved the game, and that's why he's got 3 cups. But like, just when you think of hockey, you think like Ken Daneyko played hard.
Like a guy probably walked around no towel on all the time.
Yeah, probably.
With a story about Gomer too. I'm
Probably.
sure he's probably got a couple like in locker room moments that are just legendary.
Yeah, it was great. So obviously with Jersey doing, well this year, we've taken some heat on social media. Some people are like, "Hey, talk about the fucking Devils." Well,
There's
there's
the only people that doubted him.
Yeah, there's the Devils legend. He does great stuff for NHL Network. I love when he comes on our segment. So just a legend. And what he said about eras, though, right? And then I got to maybe learn from this. That's the one thing I took away. Is like, I'm always bitching and complaining about, it's soft and it fucking eras to eras. In his era, I would have got the shit beat out of me. So fucking thank God I wasn't playing then.
Yeah, you imagine some of him and the guys that he had to go up against looking at your era, which was our era.
Licking their chops.
Going, look at these fucking pussies out here.
Brian thinks he's tough. Look at what a pussy.
Yeah. These guys can't take a punch in the lips. Look at these
Guy's
guys.
fucking seatbelt. He's not even throwing rights there. What the fuck?
So no, it was it's a pleasure. We always enjoy, and I hope our fans enjoy getting a look, a dive in on some champion, some guys that battled their ass off, won cups, and enjoyed doing it. So
well set up, dog. That was Missin, Curfew.
Fella.